So what did you think of Bardem and the character of Silver?
I thought he was terrifying. Like, I thought there was something genuinely psychotic about him on presence, and the way that he's introduced, it's a locked off shot again. Bond is restrained, and he walks in the full length of this long hallway with lots of servers and computers in, and he just delivers this monologue about rats eating each other on an island, and it's so well delivered, and it's such a kind of nuanced, like, ticky performance. Like, he's got lots of weird mannerisms and ambiguity to him, like the sexual ambiguity as well. I think is immediately it's quite funny, but at the same time there's something quite menacing about the way that he does it. He's just like this weird voracious character.
Yeah, it's one of the great film entrances, I think.
Yeah.
And that moment when he starts flirting with Bond, you know, all the way through the series they've hinted at characters being gay and the odd villain, but this is the first time it was just out there.
Yeah, I love the way that Bond handled it as well.
Yeah.
When he, like, presses him and goes, I know, don't be worried, this is your first time. Bond goes, well, what makes you think it's my first time?
Yeah.
It's just consummately cool.
Has Bond been with a man?
I wouldn't put it past him.
No.
It's Bond.
I thought the interesting thing was, though, he doesn't show up for an hour and a quarter. You don't see him.
Yeah.
I was timing it, because I was after an hour I'm thinking, where's the villain in this movie? But then when he does appear, he totally casts a shadow over the whole film.
He's a massive presence in the movie, yeah. He's such... What I really liked about him, because even though he comes into the movie an hour in, it feels like he's an antagonist to Bond. Whereas I think a lot of Bond villains feel like like bosses in video games. You see them at the very end of the movie, like you have an encounter, some of them anyway. Whereas this guy was constantly at Bond and at M as well, and at the end, I just thought it was a really unnerving performance when he almost fulfills his destiny of executing M. But when he encounters her, he sees that she's hurt, and he's worried about her. He goes like, "Who hurt you, mummy?" And he grabs her, and he holds up the gun to both of their heads. It's much more than he just wants to destroy the world. He's really devious but unhinged at the same time.
Well, this is the real plot that we kind of hinted at earlier, but it's all about he's a shadow from M's past, and he's come to kind of wreak his revenge. For me, I didn't feel the motivation that strongly. Like, I thought they did away with it in a sentence or two.
Yeah, it's when
about what had happened in China, and I don't know. And he's waited 20 years, and then I just didn't feel.
No, it is kind of in a couple of sentences when he's like encased like Hannibal Lecter. I understand like why the motivation they've given him, because it's obviously it's a counterpoint to Bond, because she effectively at the beginning when Bond gets shot by field agent Eve, you could perceive that as a betrayal. But she has to make the tough call, and the same thing happens with Silver. She made the tough call, but it also sounds like he maybe was already showing signs of being quite deranged anyway. And I suppose that's why it kind of fits in. But there's a lot they have to get through. But I don't feel he is. I think he's more fleshed out than a lot of Bond villains there. Saying that. Yeah,
and I had fun watching him, but I needed a bit more to really understand where he was coming from and what he was doing. But I thought the performance was faultless. You know, one part, I think you name-checked the Joker, Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker, and obviously the Hannibal Lecter thing is, you know, they wear that on the film's sleeve.
I didn't invoke the kind of Joker thing lightly, because Ledger died. That always feels a really hard comparison to Joe, but I think he does something really different with that part that another actor wouldn't have necessarily brought to it. So I do think it is a kind of comparable performance.
So we've come quite a long way without really talking about the Bond girls.
Yeah, but I think
so. That kind of fits in with how they're presented in the movie. I think that's one of those kind of heirlooms that it's inherited that it kind of does away with. Because Berenice Marlowe, you think she kind of functions as kind of traditional Bond girl. He meets her, he sleeps with her, but it never lingers over that moment. They sleep together, and then she dies pretty quickly, almost a little bit like Terry Hatcher in Tomorrow Never Dies. And that's kind of it for Bond girls. And then after watching the movie, I had this kind of epiphany, whereas M's the Bond girl. Most definitely. I thought exactly the same thing. As the film wore on, I was thinking more and more, where are the Bond girls? And then suddenly you're like, oh, well, she's the Bond girl.
Because at the end, you think about Dame Judi Dench, who is, I don't know what she is, but she's kind of OAP age. She's making nail bombs.
Yeah.
How good's that? Dame Judi Dench running around with a gun making nail bombs.
It's the most she's and the character of Emma's ever appeared in a Bond movie.
Yeah,
and it was really great getting to know her, and
her relationship
tough in this movie.
Yeah.
She's a tough bitch.
And you just think, for a woman to occupy that job in the British government or intelligence agency, she'd have to be. She has to make those calls every minute of every day. But her relationship with Bond is fascinating, and I think it's the first time that it's really been kind of explored to that extent. It's been hinted at, the relationship before, like in GoldenEye, when she like calls him a misogynistic dinosaur. But in this movie, I think you realise there's a lot of affection between them. But for instance, when he comes back from the dead at the beginning, and she tells him that they've sold his flat, and he goes, "I'll have to book into a hotel," and she went, "Yeah, bloody well, right? You're not staying here."
Yeah.
But she loves him, she cares about him, and most importantly, she trusts him more than anyone to get the job done. And I think it's a very touching movie, a very emotional movie, especially that ending.
So we said Berenice Marlowe gets short shrift, really.
Yeah.
The girl who does get more screen time is Naomi Harris's Eve,
Yeah.
who we mentioned earlier. What did you think of her scenes with Bond?
I thought she was a bit awkward.
Me too. I'm agreeing
glad,
with you again.
I'm glad someone else thought that. I just thought it was a little bit stilted. I don't think they had chemistry.
No, and they were trying a bit too hard.
I don't know whether that's some of it might have been the kind of the script between them two was more reminiscent of kind of old Bond, where it's kind of like fast repartee, like I'll outquip you, and it just felt a bit flat. And obviously at the ending, I called this, by the way.
I did not see that coming.
I called this back in November. You can go on IGN and read this.
Really?
I called this back in November. She is Moneypenny.
Moneypenny. Eve Moneypenny.
She settles for a desk job at the end. And if she's going to stay around, they need to really work on that chemistry, I guess.
They do.
Although I think at the end, when she's behind the desk and it's in that office and it's just fleeting and they're not out in the field, it kind of works better.
We'll see, but I fear that there will be more awkward scenes of them flirting in an office.
Yeah.
But she'll be out in the field, though. This is a new Moneypenny, isn't it? She'll be out firing guns and doing shit. So the other character that we mentioned earlier, who has a bit of a twist at the end, is Ralph Fiennes' Mallory. Were you a fan of his and the fact that he is now M?
Yeah, very, very much. I think you're saying, like, I was suspicious. For a long time I thought he might be revealed as kind of a arch villain, like higher than Bardem's character, but it wasn't the case, because there's a turning point where Q is going rogue. He's helping Bond off the grid, doing some. I can't remember. It's a few weeks since I saw it.
Yeah, when they're sorting out the tube, and he's giving them the tube.
Yeah,
he's helping him get to Skyfall Castle house.
Yeah, he's going off grid, so Bardem can't track him. And Mallory, you think, oh god, because he's portrayed as very kind of bit of a bureaucrat, a little bit by the book, and then at that point he's like, carry on what you're doing, and you realise that this is a guy who's got Bond's back as well.
Yeah. And I think it's great to see an actor with the chops of Ralph Fiennes going up against Daniel Craig. Yeah. They're obviously going to clash heads going forward. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see what they do with that character again, because, again, all bets are off.
Because it's a different take on that. Yeah. Because M is the role, so it's like a different person. I thought at the end it was lovely, the set design for M's office is very reminiscent of Dr. No, the kind of padded leather door and the kind of very traditional wooded English office. That was a nice touch, I thought. Yeah, so the reinventions of both M and Moneypenny, I think, could see the Bond movies change quite a bit in the future. Yeah, and I think that's a great way of this Bond movie tapping into a good, sophisticated aspect of its tradition, rather than the tacky gadgets and the Bond girls who are pretty but crap at acting. I think there could be more of a team element going forward. I think that's one of the best things about this movie, is you feel like Q and M are alongside him, rather than he's just like some Bond movies, they become so kind of episodic, where he's in different countries, meeting different people, and I don't know, this felt much more cohesive. And the gadgets are back. Yeah. The gadgets are back. Yeah. Did you like Ben Whishaw as Q? Yeah, I thought he was really good, and I do like when that first scene when they meet in the National Gallery, and there's great kind of exchanges between him, because Q is, for all intents and purposes, the future of MI6. There's that tension that didn't exist before. Q, the quartermaster before, is like, here's all your equipment that you need to do what you need to do out in the world. But Q is now, he is the future, as is Bardem's character, because you can do anything from a laptop. Whereas Bond is the muscle. He's the hired gun.
Yeah.
But Bond, there's a great exchange where it's like, you'll always need people like me to be out there, to pull the trigger, to do what you can't do. I just thought they had good chemistry. I'd like to see them carry that on, though. I think that you could even make more of that as time goes on, because Craig's going to get older and older. And I think that could actually, rather than be disadvantaged, like in some of the other Bond movies like Diamonds Forever, where Connery looks old, Craig, they're kind of making sense of that and making it into a real thematic point for the movies going forward. And
I was surprised that he was funny. I don't think I've ever seen Ben Whishaw be funny.
He's quite funny.
You know, he's in Nathan Barley, but he wasn't even funny in that. It was funny what happened to him. But yeah, I think the comic interplay between those two is what maybe the last couple of Daniel Craig movies have missed.
Yeah.
You know, they did up the ante in terms of comedy with this one.
I also like a good throwback in that scene as well. He says something, I can't remember what the line is, but Daniel Craig says, "You're joking." And that's exactly what Connery says to Q when he shows him the ejector seat in the DB5.
Oh, nice.
He goes, "Ejector seat," he goes, "You're joking. I never joke about my work, 007. It's just that it's very subtle.
Yeah.
If you compare that to that heavy-handed Die Another Day references, and it's worlds apart, I think, in terms of sophistication.